Las Piñas City. Major work category, road construction, road safety system, roadway delineation, roadside, 2 km 0028 plus negative 230. ABC of 2,419,222 pesos and 58 centavos. Major work category, roads, rehabilitation, asphalt. Duration of 30 calendar days. Next project, ID number 26 OI 0006. Rehabilitation of multi-purpose building, Barangay Buli, Muntilupa City. Coordinates 14.44280 to 1210560. ABC of 5,596,909 pesos and 4 centavos. Major work category, building renovation 52.48%, construction without files, low-rise concrete, frame 1 to 5 stories, 47.52%. Duration of 150 calendar days. Next project, ID number 26 OI 0007, Preventive Maintenance, Primary Road, Parañaque, Sucat Road, SO3293LZ, Chainage 150 to Chainage 198. ABC of 1,109,034 pesos and 7 centavos. Major work category, rehabilitation, asphalt. 30 calendar days for the duration. And then the last project, ID number 26 OI 0008, construction of multi-purpose building at BM Town Homes, Barangay Putatan, Muntilupa City. For the coordinates, 14.398928 to 121.039579. ABC of 8,901,843 pesos and 1 centavos. For the major work category, buildings, construction without piles, low-rise concrete, frame 1 to 5 stories. ABC of 120 calendar days. And then for the documents to be submitted by the contractor, requirements of the bidding documents and the timelines, kindly discuss it, Engineer Kevin.
Good morning. Here are the documents to be submitted by the contractor. For the technical documents, the following must be submitted. Field Job Certificate of Registration and Membership, including Annex A. If not yet enrolled in the Civil Works Application or CWA, the following must be included in the bid. PCAB license and registration, the statement of all ongoing government and private contracts, SLCC, NFCC computation and statement of total assets and total liabilities, and joint venture agreement if applicable. Next is the bid security. And for the project requirements, the following must be included in the bid. Duly initialed organizational chart for the contract. Duly initialed contractors list of key personnel for the contract. Duly initialed list of contractors' major equipment. Next is the sworn affidavit of eligibility and beneficial ownership. Next is the latest General Information Sheet or GIS, reflecting the beneficial ownership information duly received by the Securities and Exchange Commission for corporations. ISO 9001-2015 certificate for ABC above 30 million. And for additional requirement, the preliminary examination of technical proposal form or checklist may be included. For the financial documents, the following must be submitted. Duly signed bid form, duly signed bid prices in the bill of quantities, duly initialed detailed estimates including a summary sheet indicating the unit prices of construction materials, labor rates, and equipment rentals used, duly initialed cash flow by quarter. And for the additional requirement, the preliminary examination of financial documents form or checklist may be submitted. Requirements of bidding documents. Conflict of interest. All bidders found to have conflicting interests shall be disqualified to participate in the procurement at hand without prejudice the imposition of appropriate administrative, civil, and criminal sanctions. The bidder shall also disclose the ultimate beneficial ownership of the entity it represents. Failure to comply shall be a ground for automatic disqualification of the bid in consonance with Section 59 of the IRR. For this reason, relationship to the aforementioned persons within the third civil degree of consanguinity or affinity shall automatically disqualify the bidder from participating in the procurement of contracts of procuring entity, notwithstanding the act of such persons inhibiting themselves from the procurement process. Who are the eligible bidders? Only bids found to be legally, technically, and financially eligible will be evaluated. The bidder must have completed an SLCC that is similar to the procurement project to be bid and whose value must be equivalent to at least 50% of the ABC, adjusted to current prices using the Philippine Statistics Authority Consumer Price Indices. The SLCC shall be supported by an owner's certificate of final acceptance issued by the project owner other than the contractor, or a final rating of at least satisfactory in the contractor's performance evaluation system or CPES, or a similar performance and monitoring system. In the case of contracts with the private sector, an equivalent document shall be submitted. The computation of a bidder's NFCC must be at least equal to the ABC to be bid. Bidders' responsibilities. Before submitting their bids, the bidders are deemed to be knowledgeable of all existing laws, decrees, ordinances, acts, and regulations of the Philippines which may affect this project in any way. The bidder, by the act of submitting its bid, shall be deemed to have inspected the site, determined the general characteristics of the contract works and the conditions for this project, and examined all instructions, forms, terms, and project requirements in the bidding documents. Further, the bidder shall bear all costs associated with the preparation and submission of its bid, and the procuring entity shall in no case be responsible or liable for those costs, regardless of the conduct or outcome of the bidding process. Furthermore, the bidder should be aware that procuring entity will accept bids only from those that have paid the applicable fee for the bidding documents at the office indicated in the invitation to bid. Contents of bidding documents. Clarification and amendment of bidding documents. Prospective bidders may request for clarifications on and/or interpretation of any part of the bidding documents. Such requests must be in writing and submitted to the back of the procuring entity at the address or electronic mail indicated in the BDS, at least 10 calendar days before the deadline set for the submission and receipt of bids. It shall be the responsibility of all prospective bidders, including those who have properly secured the bidding documents, to inquire and secure supplemental bid bulletins that may be issued by the BAC. For the preparation of bids, language of bids, the eligibility requirements or statements, the bids, and all other documents to be submitted to the BAC must be in English. Documents comprising the bid, technical and financial components. The first bid envelope shall contain the following technical documents, including the eligibility documents: list of contractors' personnel, example, project manager, DPWH accredited project engineers, materials engineers, safety officer, foreman, and first aider to be assigned to the procurement project to be bid with their complete qualifications and experience data. This personnel must meet the required minimum years of experience set in the BDS. List of contractors' major equipment units which are owned, leased, or under purchase agreements, supported by proof of ownership or certification of availability of equipment from the equipment lessor or vendor for the duration of the project, as the case may be, which must meet the minimum requirements for the contract set in the BDS. The second bid envelope shall contain the financial bid form, which includes the bid prices and bill of quantities in accordance with ITB Clause 13.1. For the bid prices, the contract shall be for the whole works as described in the bidding documents, based on the price bill of quantities submitted by the bidder. For the given scope of work, in the contract as awarded, all bid prices shall be considered as fixed prices and therefore not subject to price escalation during contract implementation, except under extraordinary circumstances as specified in GCC Clause 45. Bid currencies. All bid prices shall be quoted in Philippine peso. The bid validity. Bid shall remain valid for the period specified in the BDS, which shall not exceed 120 calendar days from the date of the opening of bids. For the bid security, the bid security should be valid for the period specified in the BDS. Any bid not accompanied by an acceptable bid security shall be considered as non-responsive and rejected by the procuring entity. For the format and signing of bids, bidders shall submit their bids through their duly authorized on or before the deadline specified in the ITB Clause 19 in 2 separate sealed bid envelopes, which shall be submitted simultaneously, whether through manual or online submission. The first shall contain the technical component of the bid, including the eligibility requirements under ITB Clause 12, and the second shall contain the financial component of the bid. Forms as mentioned in ITB Clause 17.1 must be completed without any alterations to their format. No substitute form shall be accepted. Each and every page of the bid form, including the bill of quantities under Section 9 hereof, shall be signed by the duly authorized representatives of the bidder. Failure to do so shall be a ground for rejection of the bid. Any insertions, erasures, or overwriting shall be valid only if they are signed or initialed by the duly authorized representatives of the bidder. For sealing and marking of bids, bidders shall enclose their technical documents described in ITB Clause 12 in one sealed envelope marked Technical Component, and the financial component in another sealed envelope marked Financial Component, sealing them all in an outer envelope marked Bid. The bid shall be typed or written in ink and shall be signed by the bidder or its duly authorized representatives. All envelopes shall contain the name of the contract to be bid in capital letters, bear the name and address of the bidder in capital letters, be addressed to the procuring entity's back in accordance with ITB Clause 18.1. Bear the specific identifications of this bidding process indicated in the ITB Clause 1.1 and bear a warning do not open before the date and time for the opening of bids in accordance with ITB Clause 19. For manually submitted bid envelopes that are not properly sealed and marked as required in the bidding documents, the same shall be accepted, provided that the bidder or its duly authorized representative shall acknowledge such condition of the bid as submitted. On the other hand, unsealed or unmarked bid envelopes or bids that cannot be opened or corrupted in case of online submission shall be rejected. The back shall assume no responsibility for misplaced or lost contents of the improperly sealed or marked bid for its premature opening. For the opening and preliminary examination of bids. Deadline for submission of bids. Bids must be received by the procuring entity's back at the address indicated in the invitation to bid, or through the electronic bid submission on or before the date and time indicated in the BDS. Late bids. Bids, including the eligibility requirements submitted after the deadline, shall be rejected by the back. The back shall record, in the minutes of the meeting, the submission and opening of bids, the bidder's name, its representative, and the time the late bid was submitted. Modification and withdrawal of bids. Bidders may modify their bids before the deadline for the submission and receipt of bids. Bidders may withdraw their bids in writing before the deadline for submission and receipt of bids. Withdrawal or bids after the applicable deadline shall be subject to appropriate sanctions as prescribed in the IRR. For the evaluation and comparison of bids. Detailed evaluation and comparison of bids. The procuring entity will undertake the detailed evaluation and comparison of the bids which have passed the opening and preliminary examination of bids to determine the lowest calculated bid or LCB. The BAC shall immediately conduct a detailed evaluation of all bids using non-discretionary criteria and considering the following. Completeness of the bid. Unless the BDS allows partial bids, bids not addressing or providing all of the required items in the BDS shall be considered non-responsive and thus automatically disqualified. However, when no price or a zero or a dash is indicated in a required item in the bid, the same shall be construed that it's being offered for free to the government, except those required by law or regulations to be provided for. And arithmetical corrections. The BAC shall consider computational errors and omissions to enable proper comparison of all eligible bids. It may also consider bid correction if expressly allowed in the BDS. Any adjustment shall be calculated in monetary terms to determine the calculated prices. For the post-qualification, the bidder, within an extendable period of 5 calendar days from the receipt of notice from the BAC, shall submit all the eligibility documents supporting its PhilJEP certificate of registration, which is a platinum membership, its latest income and business tax returns filed for the preceding quarter, which should not be earlier than 2 quarters from the date of submission of bid and receipt of bid, and other appropriate licenses and permits required by law and stated in the BDS. For our timelines, the last day of clarification or query is on March 7, 2026, which is 10 days before the deadline of receipt of bid. The deadline of receipt of bid is at 8 a.m. of March 17, 2026, and the opening of bids is at 9 a.m. of March 17, 2026.
Thank you, Engineer Kevin. I request to read the questions generated online if there's any.
No questions asked, ma'am.
If there's none, I would like to remind the prospective bidders that the last day of clarification or query is on March 7, 2026, so 10 days before the deadline of receipt of bids. And the deadline of receipt of bid is at 8 a.m. of March 17, 2026. And the opening of bids will follow at 9 a.m. of March 17, 2026. So we are done for this agenda. Thank you all for coming.